Good evening all. Good evening all. It's nice to see all of you here, I think, in this busy evening after the OPD hours. I'd like to welcome you all for this symposium on myopia management, I think which is becoming an epidemic now. And at the foremost, I'd like to welcome Dr. Kim sir, who is the CMO, and sir was very much appreciating the program what we are doing for the management of myopia. And I'd like to invite Dr. P. Vijayalakshmi, who is my mentor and chief. And I'd like to welcome the Zeiss management team. Mr. Sunil Gopinath, Head of Business Development, Mr. Retinam, Head of Training, Mr. Rahul, National Head Hospital Retail, and Mr. Shrijit, Cluster Manager, Tamil Nadu. This evening we are going to dedicate this time for on how the myopia, what is the burden of myopia, and what are the recent advances which we have for myopia management. To cut my short talk, I would like to invite Dr. Vijayalakshmi Madam, who was a great force behind starting this clinic, and she will be going to talk on childhood myopia.
Thank you, Dr. Sashikant. Very good evening. I think in the coming an hour or so, we plan to highlight you on what is a simple thing, what we call is myopia, what is going on around the world, and what are the things that is recently promising planning, promising strategies to control this myopia. Everybody would have heard from your patients or parents that why my child is getting an increase in the power. I have been using glasses regularly, my child is using glasses regularly, but in spite of it, the power is growing. What is the reason? Anything can be done? This is the common question all of us day to day, at least daily 50 times would have heard it. So, this is a good forum for us to learn about what is it. I will talk about simple in general an overview. That will be followed by Dr. Sahitya about what are the risk factors that we should anticipate in this busy world, and how environmental modifications in different settings can influence the progression of myopia in children, and lastly, what are the special spectacle lenses we have in the field right now to improve the or to decrease the progression of myopia in these children. So let me start, just give you an introduction, overview about the childhood myopia. So what is it? We all know that all of us keep emmetropic till certain years of age, but not everybody is able to keep that emmetropia throughout. But some children become emmetropic. Here we only focus only on the myopia. It can be corrected by two things. By one, even by getting inside near the blackboard, or squeezing your eyes, or keeping your books closer, or by using concave lenses. You can get the image focused on the retina by doing any one of these measures. But what is it simple? What is it good for the child? We have to see. What is it? Our aim is a child is born, but the refractive status is remained in a normal status in most of us. So how this happens? That is by the process of emmetropization, what we call, What is this emmetropization? It is the stage where over the years the eye grows to a state where to keep the refractive status or to reduce the refractive status, whatever it is. Eye is small, is becoming hyperopic eye, becoming a normal eye later on. So what is it happening? What are the factors that is influencing this emmetropization? It has been said there is always an interplay among the corneal curvature, AC depth, and also lens power and axial length. These are the four things, they act together to keep our eyes emmetropic. That is the one determines our refractive status. And these, all the four elements, if they don't act together, then you end up with the refractive error. So let us see how it happens. We all know the child is born with 17 millimeters axial length and cornea which is more spherical, more steep. So how this 17 millimeters eye grows to 23 to 24 millimeters during the adult size, and the maximum growth being up to 6 years of age. So what exactly happens? So when the child is born 17 millimeters, you naturally expect everybody to have a small eyeball, hypermetropia. But this declines as the child grows because of the interplay what I said. It comes to 1 diopter hypermetropia at the age of 1 year because of the changes, and then by 2 years of age, the anterior chamber depth becomes the normal adult size, attains the normal adult size. But the other three structures, they grow continuously till we reach our adulthood. That is simple to say here, as you see in the picture, the eye grows drastically, maybe up to 5 to 6 millimeters in the first 6 years of life. So what do we think? We all might expect these children to be myopic. Simple to say. 5 millimeters growth from 17 to 21, 22, but still we are keeping emmetropic. That is the beauty of emmetropization. That is the compensatory mechanism that happens between the curvature. What happens exactly this is, this possible when the axial length grows, to compensate that there is a refractive power loss in the cornea about 4 diopters and the lens loses about 2 diopters. So this all happens just like that. That's a physiological process. So when there is anything abnormal in that, we get into myopias. So when we go to exactly the etiology of it, it's still very complex. Research is still going on in the field, but there are no definite factors to say why myopia is occurring, why it is progressing in some, why it is not progressing in some people. But it has been accepted that both genetic and environmental factors play a role here. Genetic, you would have seen, if you have seen identical twins, invariably even if they live somewhere separately, also they have the equal power if there is identical twins. So it has been said genetically it could be dominant, recessive or X-linked. But the associated environmental factors play a larger role. Not only the genetic role, but they say because why now we are getting more and more people in the past 2 generations getting into myopia. The same genes, the same genetic people are there. But there is an increase in the prevalence of myopia, increase in the progression of myopia also. And it is different in different countries, ethnicities. So why? So there must be a hidden environmental factors which needs a lot of research in it, that must be there acting together with the genetic factors. The other risk factors in the eye to develop is isophorias are not very common in our population. Exophoria is very common. When a child gets isophoria, to compensate it, Sagitya will talk about a little bit in detail about this. So they get a myopia, and against the rule astigmatism, if they have small astigmatism, it's possible that if it is against rule, they might end up with, or next time when you review, there may be some spherical myopic error will be there, and the family history added to it, again intensive near work. It has been a proved fact that higher educational achievement in people, those who have achieved higher academic excellence, invariably the prevalence is high. That will be known even earlier. People used to say, whoever in the government, whoever in the accounts office, even our pre-independence era, those who are doing accountancy, all those things, that population always wear glasses, always wear high myopic glasses. So the reason why, that is all the factors that we need to have more studies. So broadly, it is in two forms, congenital and developmental. Developmental, again you can say a juvenile onset, adult onset, but we are concerned only about the juvenile onset. We restrict ourselves to the juvenile onset developmental myopia. Usually it starts by 7 and 10 years of age. If it starts with a small error, it is usually the progression will be much less and easier for us to manage. But both congenital and developmental forms are known to have their own progression to a mean range of 0.5 diopters in general. Some reports say they have said mean progression is 0.6 diopters. But mostly we take it as a mean rate of progression is 0.5 diopters per year. So usually this progression continues till the age of 16 or 17, then it stops at that age. At least in 75% of the individuals having myopia, it stops progression. But in that 25%, again it might take another few years, maybe 20, 22, and by that time it gets stopped in that age group. So coming to the management, it is not that easy. Adults, we focus only the clarity, sharpness of the vision. But for children, there are so many factors that you have to address. That it's not only the child. Most of the time, child will not come with the complaints. Only parents come with the complaints. So we should be able to handle the parents. That means their psychology. In what psychology they have come. Some parents will say, my child will not have refractive error. Others will think, okay, refractive error, I will accept, and then let my child wear the glasses. So the three concepts will be there in these parents. And the third one will be total denial. They will not accept your conversation or whatever you are counseling, everything. So how to understand their psychology is the success of a pediatric ophthalmologist to convince the parents to increase the compliance in our child's spectacle wear. And also, today's the modern kids are very much fashion oriented. If they don't give them a right frame and the right lens of their liking, they are not going to wear it. So all this to get into focus, the prescriber should have enough knowledge on not only on determining the power, but also what is the best for that particular child, the frame and the lens. And then some ophthalmologists, what I have said, this philosophy is, still when we were students, we were taught about doing undercorrection. So cylinder, we never give a full correction. So that philosophy of each individual, some give undercorrection, some give full correction. So invariably, when should be undercorrect is when the children are less than 7-8 years, when they are still, their visual system is immature. Once they attain that, we give a full correction. This philosophy also holds good in getting a good compliance among children. So the prescription should be based on a subjective refraction, which is invariably older children is okay, but younger children will be difficult or sometimes maybe impossible to get the subjective, or maybe inappropriate, something wrong, I mean by the examiner or by the patient. And most of the time we have to rely on a good objective method. So you have to be very confident among the objective values what you have done. You should be confident enough to give your subjective refraction through whatever you have measured by your objective methodology. So objective methodology should be good enough. That means you can compare regular manual and autorefractometer. That comparison can be done and then give the exact correction. And again, unlike in adults, these people need cycloplegic refraction most of the time. Let us see who needs cycloplegic refraction. Infants, always. The infants, when there is a family history or they come with the complaints, and children with esotropias, any disease, 4-year atropia, And children with very high myopias, children below age 10 years, whenever they come for the first time with the complaints of problem with vision, and you think there is myopia existing, and when there is a jump in power between the previous visit and now, with a jump in power is too much, or change in cylindrical axis is too much, or subjective refraction is not correlating with your original uncorrected visual acuity, or not correlating with the amount of refractive error. So these things should give have a red bulb in your mind to do a cycloplegic refraction, and then compare the refraction of your dry refraction and the cycloplegic refractions, and then come to a conclusion what exactly your numbers are going to be. So what drugs we prefer? We prefer below 1 year, we prefer combination of cyclopentolate and phenylephrine, half a dose of adults. 1 to 5 years, usually invariably, we prefer to use atropine in an ointment form. Never use atropine 1% strong drug. Never use by drop form, because our tropical region, the children might end up with the febrile seizures or hyperthermia. So more than 5 years, you can choose anything, cyclopentolate or tropicamide. But believe or make it a point, children with any kind of brain damage, they should have only homotropin drops, because cyclopentolate also is likely to induce hallucinations and other side effects, and atropine is not good for them. So for them, you should use homotropin. The success of your cycloplegia, the success of prescribing everything depends upon what drug you choose and how much cycloplegia you are able to attain at the end of it. It should not be incomplete cycloplegia, it should be a complete cycloplegia. So once you have done refraction, a simple thing, a duochrome test, it is there in our RO chart. So how exactly that we can use it? Children, when you're relying on the subjective value, when there is some doubt, it may not be all children need this duochrome test, but it will be really valuable when you do it for children when it is indicated. When optimally corrected, the letters on both the halves, red and green side, should be equally clear. If the letters on the red side is more clear, that tells us there is myopia is undercorrected. Then you add more myopia in 0.25 steps till you see the clarity between the two. Both the green and the red are clear. Just the opposite, if you have a green background is more clear, that means you have overcorrected, and then add plus in 0.25 and then come into a balance. So easy remembrance, you can remember like this: red and minus, green and plus. It's easy for refractionists to remember when to use and what lenses to be used. Next is, invariably you see myopic astigmatism and also compound myopic astigmatism. So in these cases, when our subjective value, objective value is not very much easy, very much reliable, so what can we do? To convey using a JCC cylinder. Always verify the axis before you go to the power. But going into the details of it is not into this forum. But always in compound, get the spherical right and then go for the cylindrical add. And in cylindrical power, when you check, go for the axis first correction and then go for the power add correction. So what are the points to remember while you prescribing? There should be a minimum power with maximum clarity. That means never overcorrect. If you overcorrect for myopia, children will say our letters are very clear. I am able to see very clear, it's very short. But you should know what is optimum, what is overcorrection. If you overcorrect it, then you will have the disadvantages of it. And correct the astigmatism. To avoid amblyopia in these children, they invariably go for give full correction. Usually children tolerate well than in adults. And as I said earlier, some prefer under corrections, but feeling that the accommodation plays a role here. But it is usually, as I said, the immature children should be given under correction, and the mature children should be given a full correction. That is the norm what we follow now. But there can be intentional overcorrection in case of intermittent exotropias, especially to get them into convergence. and there can be intentional undercorrection when the children have esotropias. But all these points, whatever we do, the parents should be educated with the natural progression of myopia that will happen invariably in all 100% of the children, and then the need for the frequent follow-ups and as you give the prescriptions. And every time, no, they say, every time I am coming, I am spending so much money, you are just giving different, you didn't do right thing earlier, you should have given a right power. But in the first sitting itself, if we tell them, there will be a frequent change, there will be change of prescriptions, their mind will be accustomed for that fact. So now coming to the guidelines, what are the simple guidelines, what you say in AAO that holds good for our population also, but all these guidelines should be individualized whenever it is possible. So the guidelines, 5 diopters in under 1 year of age, if it is there, otherwise no, if it is less than that, their interest is only to see for near. So they will be able to see near clearly, they are not interested in looking at distance. So we don't have to give a minus power which is not over or 5 or 4 or 5. So in preschoolers, if it is 1.5 or more, and in school age 0.75. 0.75, that depends upon the complaints. Whether a patient complains, a school going child definitely says their vision is not good for distance, even if it is 0.5, you have to give the correction. So individualization should be there always. And also other status, your ROP, CBI, and the presence of strabismus should have a special considerations in prescribing. So coming to the myopic astigmatism, how do you prescribe? 2.5 diopters and more in children under 1 year of age. If it is oblique astigmatism, even less than that. 2 diopters in 3-year-old, 1.5 in 3 to 4-year-old. But this is a normal. But when parents have a family history, or a any parent wearing a glasses of astigmatic glasses, then it is better that he gives the prescription for that particular patient. When there is anisometropia, even 1.5 diopters difference should be corrected. Otherwise, no, you will lose the development of PSV and stereopsis. Anisomyopia. How do you manage anisomyopia? Young brain is still fresh. They can cope up with certain amount of anisoconia, even more than 6 anisoconia they can tolerate. So you don't have to worry about. You can prescribe even high powers uniocular to have them. If you are detecting very early, 2 years, 3 years or 4 years, you are detecting -6 in one eye and only nil in the other eye. Even that thing they will be able to target it very well. So early detection, if you are detecting anisomyopia, even if it is high, you give the same correction. But because the risk of amblyopia in anisomyopes will be much less, because why? The normal eye will be focused for distance, the anisomyopic eye will be focusing for near. So usually the risk of amblyopia is minimal, is there, but it is minimal than hyperopias. So what is the AAO guidelines again here? 4 diopters children below 1 year of age. This is difference of anisomyopia. 3 diopters in 1 to 3 years and 2.5 in 2 to 3 years old. So when it is larger, say 10 or 12 or 15, then it is difficult. Then you have to think about other giving contact lenses or balancing the power. So what are the main modes now? Spectacles. First comes spectacles. This is the first choice and the best choice for the children. But as I said earlier, it is not only the number, but you should have enough knowledge on frames and lenses, what frame and what lens to give for what power and what age. And then comes contact lenses, that we are not going to deal it right now. We only concentrate only on the spectacles. So what is the frame should be? A good frame should be comfortable, should not interfere with the nasal bone formation because of growing age, should be stable, durable, light and non-allergic specifically. So, and about the lenses, they should be light and thin, again should be very comfortable for the patients, should be, the importance here is, they should be break resistant. Impact resistant we don't have to, they are not going to have a bullet injury there, but there should be a break resistant. and a reliable scratch resistance should be there, but every other lens should have some amount of UV filter, more than 80% or even 100%. And coming to specificities of a frame, thick and full frame is suggested for moderate and high myopes. High myopes, if they have a groove in the center, that will be the best frame for them to have. Where even if they select a different frame, you should explain to them the reasons why this frame may not be good for them. And in very high frames, as we here, avoid the small ring frames and the curved ones, because otherwise the lenses will pop out cosmetically, will look very bad. And when you come to the lenses, the standard lenses what we prescribe here in the optical shop is CR39. It has got all the qualities. It also has got UV filter 80%, but it is a little bit thicker. Supposing the child has got 2.5 to 3 diopters power, and this is the best lens that they can have because the price is very low. When the power is higher, then you have to think about other lenses like Trivex, and what now we have got MR8 lenses. There you have 100% UV filter, and this is the lenses that you can recommend, but the problem is the cost difference. CR39 is very cost effective. The other lenses are a little bit costlier. Coming to the high index lenses, you would have heard patients saying that my lenses are thick, can you make it thinner? My lenses periphery is cosmetically, I am getting obstructed. So this can be done by giving a high index lens where the thickness can be cut by 50%. As you see here, the normal lens and the high index lens, the high index means the refractive index is good with a different Abbe value. So that is, these lenses, you can see the difference how it looks like on a patient. But the cost is not a very different one, marginally different cost, but patient satisfaction will be very high if you give them these lenses for a higher power. Coming to the frames. Frames, you see, you are measuring your IPD. Just measuring IPD and then sending to optical shop. Sometimes children come to you, can I have this frame? You should have some idea. It is not up to 100% to the optical shop people to decide on the frame. You should be able to guide them. This power, you just choose this kind of oval frame will not be good, or a rimless frame will not be good. You should be able to give them guidelines on that. And then safety measures. Safety measures, polycarbonate lenses, they say is good safety. Again, it's a bulletproof lens. Need not be always polycarbonate. Polycarbonate has got, it will get scratches very easily. So now this MR18 other lenses are available that can be easily prescribed for them. Now coming to the progression. What is this progressive myopias? Variable predictions are there. Average increase, as I said, 0.5. Any faster progression is, they say, related to more myopic power at the time of detection. And why should we talking about it? Because of this increased incidence in the general population and associated pathology it causes into, and also the promising strategies what is available now. When that is there, why don't we utilize it to the benefit of our own kids? So international survey says, there is conclusion saying that indication for myopia control measures should be there when the rate of progression is 1.5 diopters and more per year. This is the international guidelines given for myopia progression. What are the school of thoughts given why this myopia progression happens? It's a complex, mechanism is still complex, but the two things they have been proposed. One, a peripheral defocus, and two, the accommodation lag. Peripheral defocus all myopic patients have, but accommodation lag, not everybody have accommodation lag. Most of us myopes will have easy accommodation, so they will lag in the regular accommodation levels. So when that lag becomes higher, then it results in your problems in focusing, and more accommodation lag, you get more progression in myopias. So what is this peripheral defocus? How is causing axial length elongation? As you see in the first picture, you see the object is getting focused in front of the retina is a myopic eye. As a second picture, when you give a concave lens in front, there is the central part at the macula very sharp, clear focus is there. Because of the shape of the eyeball in the posterior part, the same length of rays coming here focusing, but the same length of rays get focused outside the retina. So as you go periphery, there is more focusing outside the retina. This is called a peripheral defocus. There is a peripheral hyperopic defocus, they say, because the image falls behind the retina. Here on the retina, here in the peripheral behind the retina. So it's called a peripheral hyperopic defocus. So this how ask me if you ask me, I don't have any answer, but this produces a stimulus for the eye to elongate, for the axial length to grow. So subsequently the eye grows posteriorly to accommodate for this peripheral defocus. So, but now the lenses have come where with the special lenses, this is with the normal standard lenses what you have here to defocus. But with the special lenses, the image gets focused even in the periphery, a clear focus is there on the retina. So everywhere there is no defocus here. So there will the Ratindra will explain to you in detail about this. So it could be in spectacles, the correction of progressions, or in contact lenses or orthokeratology. You should all know there are people, there are consultants practicing orthokeratology even now. They are doing it. Mostly in Maharashtra, they are doing believing on orthokeratology. And the atropine eye drops, even we are using atropine eye drops for quite some time, and we feel some children are responding to well. And spectacles environmental modifications will be dealt by the subsequent speakers. But what is about orthokeratology? This is where you wear RGP lens overnight, and the daytime you don't wear any correction. And this, they say, it reshapes the cornea, compresses the cornea, and it's reshaping the cornea so that the power is reduced or the progression is reduced. A steepening of the mid-periphery happens on the corneal curvature. And published studies say 30 to 63% reduction. But we don't practice it here, so we don't have experience in saying or discussing about this form of treatment. About atropine therapy, yes. We are using atropine concentrations 0.01 drops, and Arolab is manufacturing these drops. It has been used very much in the clinic now, and the exact mechanism, how it acts, is still a complex one. The postulated mechanism is it acts on the receptors in the retina, choroid, and the sclera. So these receptors are responsible for controlling the elongation of the axial length. When you use the drops in a more concentration, it will affect the accommodation. So the concentration should be very high. The high concentration may have a good effect on the axial length, but when they have, the side effect will be once you stop, there will be a rebound phenomena. It's reported in the literature. So it is better to restrict ourselves to use only a 0.01% atropine, the once a day dose. So what are the take-home messages now? To come to the summary or conclusion, cycloplegic refraction should be decided as and when needed. Try for subjective value whenever is possible, and corrected with just adequate power for the child and the age with the maximum clarity. Do not prescribe very large cylinder, -6 cylinder at the first time. Give under correction and then go for a large cylinder. When the patient is already satisfied with the old prescription, don't change the prescriptions or axis of the cylinder or degree amount of the cylinder or the axis of the cylinder. So that should be followed, and then follow-up time depends upon the type and amount of the error, age, deviations, amblyophias, etc. In non-compliance to spectacle when they come, there must be some reason. Don't blame always the child. You try to see what things went wrong on our side and try to rectify it, and monitor for the progression and necessary cycloplegic refraction. When the jump in power is more, check for accommodation lag. There is a measure of clarity of the image formation and the amount of accommodation exerted. So it tried to measure that accommodation lag, and in moderate to high myopes, always measure your axial length and also indirect ophthalmoscopy for everybody. That should be done. It's not that children will not have any retinal degeneration. Children also prone to retinal degeneration. Children also might develop retinal detachments. So we should be careful. They may not know about the premonitory symptoms. So we have to be careful in preventing them going in for other complications. And always remember to examine the siblings, because we said genetic is environmental factors will be the same for the siblings in one home. So always remember to do a sibling examination. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, ma'am, for that extensive talk. Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Satya, and I'll be talking on myopia, risk factors, and its progression. So, why myopia of all refractive errors? Why not refractive errors, all of them in one go? The reason is, years back, myopia was considered only as an optical inconvenience. You put glasses and everything is fine. But today we know that it is more of a public health problem. It has multifactorial issues, and the main problem is that there is no safe level of myopia. What we were once taught as physiological myopia and pathological myopia, those lines have started to blur out right now, which means even if you are a mild to moderate myope, the chances of you having a retinal complication is still there. There is no level saying only after -6 you are going to have. So all these myopic complications, they are non-linear but they are exponential. That is what makes myopia dangerous now. So now the IMI states that without proper control, at least 50% of the population will become myopic by 2050, of which 10% will become high myopes. So the prevalence has doubled in over the past 20 years, and East and West, they are exhibiting the same troubles. And every additional diopter, the myopic macular degeneration also goes up. So every myopia is considered progressive until otherwise proven, and it also comes with its own package of problems: cataract, RDs, myopic maculopathy, etc. That is why myopia is a public health problem today. So let's come to pre-myopia. Now if you are talking of risk factors and prevention, so now there is this new term which is called pre-myopia, wherein the child you see is not yet into myopic refraction at all. Right now the refraction is within normal limits. However, the child has a combination of risk factors, and the pattern of eyeball elongation indicates a high risk of progression into myopia. So if the refractive state of the eye is less than or equal to plus 0.75 diopters, then we consider this child a pre-myope, or if it is more than plus 0.5 diopters with a combination of risk factors for myopia, then this child might get pushed into the myopic zone. So what are the risk factors? As you can see, there is a very long list just for myopia itself. The major ones being a baseline refractive error, ocular biometry, genetics, environmental modifications, ethnicity, and education. So the cycloplegic refraction, this is the most significant risk factor. This factor is independent of any other risk factor associated. So if you have this, then you are a pre-myope, or you have a tendency to go into myopia. Every child over 6 years of age. So for 6 years, if the refractive error is less than or equal to plus 0.75, then it is a pre-myopic child. This child is going to develop myopia. Similarly, up to 11 years, you have the refractive error at risk. And the change in emetropization. So these are all values. Okay, so what you have to remember is, if a emetro is losing more than plus 0.5 diopter of age normal hyperopia in 1 year, then this child is going to become a myope later on. This child is a pre-myopic. You have to start control measures right away. So if a normal refractive status child is losing more than or equal to plus 0.5 diopters of age normal hyperopia every year, then you are dealing with a pre-myope here. the age of onset. The younger a child becomes myopic, the faster they are bound to progress. So whenever you see children less than 9 years of age who are myopic, the risk of progression is higher. Binocular vision of this comes with its own set of risk factors. One is the positive relative accommodation. The PRA, very simply put, is the ability of your eye to accommodate, the maximum ability of your eye to accommodate without recruiting convergence. So that is your positive relative accommodation. So in BVA, PRA is a single strong predictor of myopia. So the positive relative accommodation in myopes is much lower than in non-myopes or emmetropes. And higher accommodation convergence to accommodate ratios, esophorias. Ma'am also mentioned esophoria. Whenever there is a child with myopia and esophoria, the risk of myopic progression in 1 year itself is over 20 times. Accommodative lag in myopia may also be a risk factor to progression. This comes with its own controversy. It's been there for quite some time. Progressives and everything was tried with this concept in mind. IXTs, they also have been associated with onset of myopia. Child with IXT, 50% of children with IXT will become myopic by the age 10, 90% by 20 years of age. However, if you treat the IXT early, we really don't know if myopia is going to come under control or not. This is an association. We don't know how it will behave if one of it is treated early. Coming to genetics, if you have one parent who is myopic, the risk of the child becoming myopic is twofold. Whereas if both parents are myopic, the risk shoots up by 5 to 6 times. There are around 150 genetic loci which are associated with myopia. But the most useful clinical indicator of genetic risk is parental history of myopia, and it correlates well with the axial length. Coming to environment, so this is where the major part of it lies, and this is where you can do, or all of us can do something about. So one is near work. Again, lot of years, and whenever you talk of myopia, near work has been there, and there's a lot of controversy also surrounding near work. A lot of people say no, near work is not in favor of myopic progression. Some say no, it is because of near work that you get myopic progression. But now we know that near work at less than 20 centimeter working distance means you do it really close, and durations of longer than 45 minutes, it has been linked with more myopic progression. They also have a very interesting thing about LED lights, which are found to be associated with a 43 to 44% increased risk of myopia. So now there are companies which are coming out with tunable LED lights where you can actually tune in the wavelength so that they become a little myopia safe. Outdoor time, again, higher annual lifetime UVB exposures are directly related to time outdoors and sunlight exposure. This reduces the odds of myopia. So final take home point from every myopia class is that whenever you have a good sunlight exposure, it is going to protect you from myopia. The reason is that with sunlight you have a dopamine release inside the eye, and this dopamine is known to stop accelerated eye growth or myopic progression. This dopamine is what says no to an elongating eyeball. So if you see here, they said UVB spectrum, which is almost here. If you can see the spectrum, it is almost blue in color. This is why again blue light, blue cuts, blue filters are so controversial in children, and now we are starting to think that blue light is beneficial, and if you put a blue cut or blue filter in a myopic child, in a myopic spectacle, maybe this child is going to lose out on the protection that the sunlight or the outdoor time gives, and myopia might still progress. So be very careful when you are prescribing all the extra coatings to myopic children, and we would prefer not to put blue light in blue cuts in these children because of this. Dioptric field of view, another added point to the outdoor time is that the difference in defocus, meaning the difference in dioptric field outdoors is almost non-existent. I mean, the difference in defocus is not much when you are outdoors, whereas indoors the difference in defocus is large, which might also be a progressive a factor for myopia progression. So more time outdoors not only reduces progression but also prevents its onset. Now this is a very bad combination, which is more than 3 hours of near time with less than 1.5 hours or 90 minutes of outdoor time puts you at a 2.6 times increased risk of myopia progression. Sleep disruption is another thing which is also associated with myopia. A shorter sleep duration or a poorer sleep quality is associated with a progressive myopia or greater myopic refractive error. Again, the same thing here is the intrinsic photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. These cells are primary receptors for both circadian rhythm, means your sleep-wake cycle, and also emmetropizing the eye. Eye growth and sleep-wake cycle, they have a single primary receptor. These receptors are receptors to both melatonin, which are your sleep cycle hormones, and your dopamines. So once you have poor sleep, this balance is thrown off and then you're bound to get myopic progression. Now here is again where your gadgets come in. So you tell near work, but we always blame and monsterize all our smartphones, tabs and everything, right? That is because your gadgets will suppress melatonin. They will keep your brain, they will not allow you to have a good sleep quality, interrupted sleep. They will throw this off balance. They will prevent you from going outdoors, and they will also make you near work mode. That is why your smartphones and gadgets are increasing the risk of myopia more than your books. The other factors, the other risk factors are that female gender again has an increased risk of myopia. Urban population a 2.6 times higher risk. Winter months. Summer myopia progression is slower than in winter months, again maybe because of the light exposure. This is a very interesting study. It is done by the Korean National Health and Nutrition Examination. They said that the age at menarche is inversely associated with severity of myopia, which means if the age at menarche is older, if the children are older, then there is a decreased risk of moderate to high myopia. The study comes with its own limitations, however, it's a point to take into account. Next thing, the birth order. Firstborns are 10% more likely to be myopic or high myopic. The reason the study is here is because it had 90,000 subjects enrolled in this study. And also the study mentioned that this may be because the firstborns are at greater parental pressure to perform. I don't know how much of this is true. I am a single child, so if you have a sibling, do let me know. If you're a firstborn and your parents said you have to sit and read and score first in class and your brother or sister got away with it. Now coming to the infographic here, this is to sum up all your risk factors. If your child is myopic, the onset is less than 9 years, if there's a parental history of myopia, less than 90 minutes of outdoor time, more than 2 hours a day of near work, associated with binocular vision anomalies, your risk of high myopia is way higher. The assessment of risk, again parental myopia, the age of onset, ethnicity, near work, limited outdoor time, again for progression when you are a myope under 9 years of age, and the spherical equivalent is in the pre-myopic zone. How do we prevent all this? First thing, again increase outdoor activity, pretty easy to do. So now all the Asian countries and Singapore and many other countries have put in school programs where they have daily program of daily 120, where at least 120 minutes of outdoor time should be given in school itself. 2 to 3 hours a day is suggested, and when you go outdoors, the light exposure is around 1000 to 3000 lux, which is almost like indoor is only 300 lux, so you get 10 to 100 times higher exposure outside. And now you have smartwatches. Obviously smartwatches and gadgets are for everything, so for myopia also it is there. So this is going to calculate how much time the child has spent outdoors, and it's going to send a feedback to the child as well as the parents. So outdoor time of 2 hours per day has greatest effect on delaying and preventing myopia onset. It also reduces BMI and sedentary lifestyle. Forget myopia, children will at least be happy if you're going to send them out to play. And future of classrooms, you'd remember these classrooms where we had large windows, we had big corridors and all that. Now, no, they're more sophisticated with smart boards. With such classrooms with minimal light and absolutely no windows, all air conditioned classrooms, your outdoor time and light exposure is going to go down really low. So maybe we have to go back to old schools where you have large windows sitting by the sun and larger PT hours. Reduce near work, continuous reading of more than 30 to 45 minutes. The type of near work also plays an important role. So whenever your child is holding a reading material, make sure they have an elbow to arm distance to the reading material that is given. That's kind of a rough guide you give them, how much distance they have to work. And there's an anti-myopia pen that's developed in China, Hong Kong and all, where if you go very close to the pen, it gives a beep and then the child comes back. So on the 20-20-20 rule, this is very common after COVID, I guess. Every 20 minutes of any activity, you take a 20-second break and you look at something 20 feet away. Optical interventions, again we have low dose atropines, we have these peripheral defocus lenses. They're also looking at starting these on pre-myopes so that when there's a very strong risk profile, maybe you can start them to prevent onset and decrease progression. As far as atropine is concerned, we right now the ATOM-3 trial is investigating prevention of onset in pre-myopes and control of myopia, where the inclusion is 5 to 9 years with one parent who is myopic, around 600 participants, evaluating between atropine 0.01 and placebo. It's a 2-year trial. Maybe when the results are out, we'll know if atropine also has a role in pre-myopia and myopia prevention. Role of violet lenses, there's a very interesting study which says, I showed you the blue spectrum, right? So it has a protective effect and all that. So they've incorporated these violet lights in the glasses itself. So there's a continuous exposure of violet light that's going into the eye. And they say that the axial length elongation is controlled. So there are case reports on it. And again, whenever there is allopathy, there is alternative medicine. So there are acupressure points and all that. Nothing, no conclusive studies, but it's there. If one of your patients is telling I'm taking an alternative medicine, maybe this is still happening. And so all a slight deviation from the topic, just food for thought. Are we fighting the inevitable? Is myopia the norm? There's something called the adaptive myopia hypothesis, which says back in Stone Age, we were all hunter-gatherers, meaning we were all hunting, we needed distance vision. Now we have all moved to near work. But even in those days, there would have been a small group of people who were myopes, who were needed to make tools to, for near work and all that. So myopia may have a survival benefit. Myopia may have the survival edge. That is why it's been there in evolution. So you cannot fully discard myopia as a disease with poor quality of life. For a clan to survive, for a genetic pool to survive, it needs this edge of survival benefit which myopia would have given right from hunter-gatherer lifestyle itself. So maybe because now we are all moving towards a lot of near work, maybe myopia is the norm and it's bound to happen. Maybe. That's just food for thought. So how to keep myopia at bay? Let children be children, keep them happy, let them outdoors, let them play, let them sleep, let them read a little, no gadgets, and get their eye checkups on a regular basis. If they're prescribed something, let them wear. So keep myopia at bay, go outdoor and play. Thank you so much for the patient listening. I invite Mr. Ratnadar for his talk.
Hi, good evening everyone. I would like to thank everyone first of all to take your time out, and thank you Vijayalakshmi ma'am, Dr. Sahiti and Shashikant sir for setting the context. I must say it's a very extensive talk and it is really very interesting talk what I have been seeing since last almost 1 hour. At the same time, I would like to thank that entire Arvind management team for giving us the responsibility and keeping trust on us for setting up the myopia clinic. So it's basically to create that awareness. And this is the second myopia clinic that we are going to open tomorrow in Arvind family. So the first one we have already opened it in Arvind Eye Hospital, Coimbatore. So before going to talk about the myopia management from Zeiss, let me quickly take you through the what is Zeiss. So I'm sure many of you may not be knowing about Zeiss. So Zeiss, Zeiss as a company, it was formed in the year of 1846 and it was formed by Dr. Carl Zeiss. Later on in 1866, Dr. Ernst Abbe joined hand together with Dr. Carl Zeiss, and since then it's been almost 175 years now we are carrying the legacy of these two gentlemen. So if you see that what exactly we have been doing since last 175 years, so since last 175 years we are helping our customer to see beyond. So our main intention is to enable our customer to see beyond, and we have three pillars. We have the customer focus, we have the innovation, and at the same time the reliability, right? So that is also another pillar for our brand. So if I quickly take you through that how we have been doing it. So many of you must not be knowing that Zeiss today, it's not a company, it's basically a foundation. It's runs by a foundation called Carl Zeiss AG. And just because it is a foundation, every year we spend heavily on R&D, research and development. Close to around 13 to 14% of our overall revenue we spent on research and development, technology and innovation. As a result, so what I will do is I'll quickly take you through that what all the first of its kind innovation that we have done in recent past. 1912. So today, if you see in opticals, we have a term called meniscus lens. What is meniscus lens? Is basically one side convex and another side concave, right? So earlier it was not so. It was basically a spherical lenses where the peripheral area would means compromise the quality of vision. So 1912, Carl Zeiss developed the first meniscus lens. And since then the optical industry, the definition of lenses in the optical industry got changed. 1935, it was the time of Second World War. We developed the first anti-reflection coating. But anti-reflection coating, and in the year 1935, it was not used on the surface of spectacle lens, but it was used on the rifloscope and binoculars. Basically, German military, they actually use this anti-reflection coating. So we proudly say we are the founder of anti-reflection coating in the year 1935. 2007, we developed or we innovated one more product. We call it as a eye-scription lenses. The doctors who are sitting over here, they must be aware about. Generally, we say that the higher order aberration cannot be corrected by the spectacle lenses. It is true, but at the same time, we developed one lens which we call it as a eye-scription lens. In eye-scription lens, we optimize the power based on the higher order aberration, and to dispense this lens, we do require a machine called eye profiler. So this is the innovative product Zeiss has developed in the year of 2007. So I will not take you through that, or I will not bore you with the innovation that we have done in recent past. So what I will do is, please allow me to play a small video. It's about 1.5 minutes of video. So this is a very interesting thing. Last 18 months, we have come up with 8 new innovative technologies, right? Please bear with me and just have a watch, and then I'll move to the next part of the presentation, which is Zeiss myopia management.
175 years ago, Carl Zeiss followed his passion and laid the foundation for a company that is now a global technology leader. He asked himself, how can we stay afloat in a world that is constantly changing? By knowing our environment better and by working tirelessly on innovating solutions to save precious life forms. His vision has enabled us in making more than 16 million eye operations possible each year, empower researchers and Nobel Prize winners to achieve their aspirations, be a part of the first moon landing, experience nature up close and first-hand, helping our customers win Oscars, looking into virtual world and designing the future of digital experiences. At Zeiss, we turn revolutionary knowledge into trailblazing innovations.
Okay, so thank you so much for your patience. So now let's move into the Zeiss myopia management lens solution. So my job is much easier now the way Dr. Vijayalakshmi and Dr. Sahitya has spoken about the myopia management or the myopia prevalence. So let me talk about the Zeiss myopia management spectacle lens solution. So first of all, when I talk about Zeiss myopia management spectacle lens solution, let me just put it across that this is not a new innovation that we have done it recently. So Zeiss and the myopia management relationship, if you see, it has been there since last almost 20 years. We have started our journey in the year of 2002. First prototype of myopia management spectacle lens that we have developed in the year 2007, and officially or commercially it was launched in China, Japan and Korea. These are the three countries in the year 2011, and the name of the product was Zeiss Myovision lens, right? So when it's been, I think in India, if you talk about, it's been only about 1 year, 2 year, or let's say about 5 years we are talking about Zeiss we are talking about myopia management. We thought of means almost a decade ago, and this is almost 11th year we are celebrating our myopia management portfolio, which is being available in the market. Now, if you talk about this India market, yes, we were little skeptical that when to bring this product in India, because if I talk about the 2017 myopia prevalence report in India, again I'm sure that the doctor would also acknowledge with me that the myopia prevalence in India, it was not very encouraging. It was only about 5 to 7% in 2017. But there was prediction that by 2050 that half of the world population would become myopic, right? And after that this has happened. So since we were hit by the COVID, and we have seen in 2022 there are many studies which are done, and they are predicting that right now the myopia prevalence in India is close to around 25 to 30%, right? And that's the reason we thought, I think this is the right time to introduce our portfolio. But when we are going to talk about our portfolio, there are so many other myopia solutions which are also available. These solutions have already been spoken about by Dr. Vijayalakshmi, Dr. Sahitya, that ortho-K lenses which is there, we have atropine therapy, we have spectacle lenses, we have specially designed contact lenses. If you ask us that how Zeiss spectacle lenses are different than this, first of all, we have not done any sort of study against the efficacy of this product against the other product. The reason behind, we firmly believe, as both of them have said, that myopia being multifactorial in nature, no one in the world can say that only one particular product has got the best efficacy rate for the kids, right? So multiple solution will help the society to prevent the myopia prevalence. Now, when we talk about this managed myopia spectacle lenses, so when we were developing this product in the year 2002 or 2007, so we had a very clear aim. We wanted to develop a spectacle lenses which would correct myopia. At the same time, the specially designed area of the spectacle lens should reduce or regulate the myopia progression, and that could only be possible if we could have developed a different design, right? And that is what we have done it in 2007. So now, before going to the spectacle lenses that we have designed, let me quickly talk about the two different theories. Madam has already spoken about that. We have two different widely spoken theories. One is peripheral defocus theory, another one is the accommodative lag theory. We did not get into the conflict that which particular theory has got a better acceptance, whether peripheral defocus has got a better acceptance or the accommodative lag. See, to be very frank, accommodative lag or the relation between accommodation and the myopia progression, it is not so clear as mentioned by Dr. Sahitya. But it has not been overruled yet, and that's the reason what we thought that we would develop both the products. So being a doctor or being a practitioner, you decide that which product you would like to prescribe to your patient, right? So what we have done, in 2018, we revamped our entire portfolio. So 2011, as I said, we developed a product called Myovision, and that Myovision was redesigned in 2018, and we developed a product called Myovision Pro. And one more product that we have come up with, that was MyoKid. So if you quickly ask me that what are the designs, so Myovision Pro, which is based on the peripheral defocus or based on the peripheral defocus theory, and the MyoKid, which is based on the accommodative lag management. Now I will quickly take you through that what all the organizations were associated with us. So it is not that Zeiss solely developed this product. We firmly believe that we know the optics better, but there are many doctors, many scholars across the globe, they know the topics or the subject better. And that's the reason we actually collaborated with the many organizations across the globe. So we associated with Brand Holden, and we actually developed this Myovision or Myovision Pro lenses based on the study which was done in Brand Holden Institute. I'm sure many of you would have heard about the Brand Holden Institute. Similarly, in 2018, when we were developing these MyoKid lenses, we were associated with Tübingen of University based on their research, based on their result of that study. We developed a product called MyoKid. So when I talk about this peripheral defocus, Madam has nicely explained that what is peripheral defocus. So if you see the first picture, it is clearly, you can see the thing. When light goes through the center of the lenses, it goes and gets focused exactly on the retina, whereas the when light goes through the periphery of the spectacle lenses, it gets focused beyond the retina. And this is what the stimulation, and this is what the brain will send a signal to the brain for the elongation. So our main intention to bring that peripheral image in front of the retina. And how can we do that? So from the picture, what you can understand, if we can bring little bit of convexity at the periphery of the lens, I don't know whether you can see it here. So this is the image which is culprit, right, which actually causes the axial elongation. So if we can bring this peripheral image in front of the retina, then our problem will be solved. So as I said, that what we can do is we can bring some convexity at the periphery of the retina so that the image can come in front of the retina. And that is what we have done it in our Myovision Pro. So there are many mechanisms which are available nowadays in the market, that how to bring that convexity at the periphery. So we had chosen the mechanism which we call it as a asymmetrical, highly aspheric this design. So what we do is, so this is the Myovision Pro. So this is a Myovision Pro is a single vision lens, but in single vision lens we have got two demarcated zone. So when I say two demarcated zone, what does it mean? This particular lens has got a central zone. I hope you can see here. This is the central zone. In this central zone, you would get that actual power, and at the periphery, 360 degree, you would have a different hyperopic power. And when I say hyperopic power, it is a relative hyperopic power. The prescription what you are going to give to your patient, it will be relative to that particular prescription, and it goes up to 3.5 diopter of relative hyperopic prescription, and it happens 360 degree across the central zone. So what is the benefit? The benefit is this central zone helps the light to get focused exactly on the retina, whereas the peripheral part of the spectacles, that actually helps the peripheral image to come in front of the retina, and that is how we control the axial elongation. So this is about the Myovision Pro. When I talk about the MyoKid lens, so MyoKid lens is basically based on the accommodative lag. As ma'am has said that there are cases where kids would suffer from that accommodative lag. In accommodative lag, what happens basically that the central image, which is a foveal image, it would be defocused and it would go beyond the retina. Again, here also if you see, this is the stimulation. The moment the image is beyond the retina, that is a stimulation to the brain, means stimulation will come from the brain that let's elongate. So how do means bring this central image in front of the retina? So we have been following this particular method since many ages. So I'm sure being a doctor, you have been prescribing this thing, the regular bifocal lenses or the regular progressive lenses, that you have been prescribing it. But the regular progressive lens, the regular bifocal lens, those progressive or those bifocal lenses are typically developed for the adults. right? So for each and every adult, we have a different, center of eye rotation, and for kids, the center of eye rotation would be different because the anatomical structure of the kids are different. And keeping those things in mind, we develop a different, progressive lens. The design of the Myokid lens is different. So these are the two different progressive lens. So this is the Zeiss Myokid lens, and this is the regular progressive lens. I'll quickly take you through that. What are the three major changes that we have done in this Myokid progressive lens? So the first of all, what you can see is regularly in a regular progressive lens, you will have a peripheral distortion. And this peripheral distortion is distributed among distance, intermediate and near area. So what we have done in this Myokid lens, the distance zone is completely distortion free. Whereas this is a regular progressive lens, here you can see that the distortion is still present, right? Now if you see the presence of the near zone, so this is the near area, so near area is little pulled up because basically what we require the near vision support with the addition lenses, and the kid should reach that near zone much earlier, whereas in the regular progressive lens the near zone is little away, right? So the corridor, generally we say in a progressive lens that the corridor is ultra short in Myokid lens. And one more changes that we have brought in, that is the peripheral distortion even adjacent to the near zone. So if you see here that the adjacent to the near zone, there are significant peripheral distortion which is there, whereas in the Myokid the peripheral distortion is significantly lesser, right? So this is the design that we have developed for the kids. So if I have to summarize that what are the two different products that we have, so the first product that we have, which is Myovision Pro. So Myovision Pro, it is a single vision lens which has got two demarcated zone, center zone that corrects myopia, peripheral zone that regulate the myopia, and Myokid, which is a progressive lens. The upper portion of the Myokid lens, it corrects the distance power, and the bottom area where we would have an addition power that will support the kids for the near task, right? So with these two different designs, we are very proud to say that today in this optical industry, Zeiss has the most comprehensive product portfolio. When I say most comprehensive product portfolio, what does it mean? That means that we have the product based on both the theories which are available in the market. Whereas there are many other companies where you will also find the myopia spectacle lenses, but they have a product based on one particular school of thought, whereas we have the product based on two school of thoughts, where you can pick and choose the product based on the etiology of your patients. Moving to the reason to believe. So as I already said that there are two innovative designs that we have, two innovative technologies that we have. We have scientific papers to back these two designs, and we have 200 plus acceptance trial report, right, and the endorsement results. So there are many patients. So as I said, this is the 11th year where we are celebrating our presence in the world. So there are many patients who have been benefited with the myopia management spectacle lenses that we have since last 11 years. Now the biggest challenge for the Zeiss myopia management is, I would not say challenge, this is something like means the consultative approach that we would like to bring in. So if you see, this is the regular workflow that you follow right now in your refraction cubicle. So you take history, then you do objective refraction, then you do subjective refraction, and then you send the patient to doctor, and doctor sends them to the optical. But if you see, as I said, that we have two different products, one is Myovision, another one is Myokid. So, and Myokid is typically developed for the accommodative lag. So to know that whether the kid is suffering from the accommodative lag or not, that is very, very important. So to do that, what we would suggest. So these are the two tests that we strongly suggest. Please add these two tests in your workflow. One is MEM, or the dynamic retinoscope, because dynamic retinoscope is the gold standard to identify the accommodative lag, and the Fourier measurements, as doctor has mentioned. So if you are going to find that the esophoria, then the chances of having the myopia will be more. So for just do this two evaluation. If kid has a accommodative lag more than 0.75 diopter, why I am saying 0.75 diopter? Because we all have an accommodative lag. 0.5 to 0.75 diopter of accommodative lag is absolutely common. So if it is more than 0.75 diopter, along with that, if there is a esophoria, always the product of choice would be Myokit lenses. If in case the accommodative lag is not significant or esophoria is not there, Myovision Pro would be a product of choice. But again, that is our recommendation. We leave it up to you. Being a doctor, you have the better judgment. Now, regardless of the solution, whether it is a ortho-K lenses, whether it is a spectacle lens, whether it is atropine therapy, we strongly recommend to follow these 8 behavioral tips, right? If you do not follow the behavioral tips, you let your patient use the best of the best solution, you cannot control the myopia progression at all. So there are 8 behavioral tips, but what I will quickly call it out. I don't know whether it is visible from the back. So outdoor activity, take a visual break. So 20-20-20 rules already doctor has spoken. Keep digital devices at a particular distance, sufficient sleep, good reading posture, healthy balanced diet, ample lighting, and regular eye checkup. Right? So having said so, thank you so much for your patient listening. And I would like to, I don't know whether it is visible from the back or not. So this is what the myopia management portfolio pricing that we have. So the product portfolio that we are going to have it. So it starts from only 8,000 rupees, and even we have a Myovision Pro, we have it even in the stock range as well. So which starts from 5,500 rupees. And the reason behind why we are able to give it in a much competitive pricing. This is a made in India product. So again, one very interesting fact, I thought I will just share it with you. So we have a global lab in Bangalore from where we export the lenses even 7 different countries across the globe: Germany, France, Italy, and MENA region. So even in this Bangalore lab, we produce those Myovision lenses and Myokit lenses. Since we produce these lenses in the Bangalore lab, and that's the reason we could able to keep the pricing in a very competitive platform. Right? Thank you so much for your patience listening. I will hand it over the platform to Dr. Vijay Lakshmi or Dr. Shashikant. Acha, for the discussion. Okay.
Any questions?
What age?
Yes, sir is asking.
What age you get to?
Okay.
What age?
Sir, typically when we did the study, so that the age group that we have chosen, it was between 6 to 16 years, but the efficacy that we have seen, the best efficacy that we have seen between 6 to 12 years. So we strongly suggest this product should be given between 6 to 12 years, but it can also be given till 16 years, because there is no detrimental effect we have seen when you are going to give it even after 12 years as well. Okay, very good point. Thank you, sir. So the Myovision Pro, which is a single vision lens, the maximum power which is available there, it is up to minus 9.5 diopter. And when I say 9.5 diopter, it is a combination of spherical and cylindrical power, right? And Myokit, the power availability is up to minus 12 diopter. Again, it's a combination of spherical and cylindrical both.
The glasses platform of the glasses.
As a bigger frame, you were saying?
Material of the frame. What you call
Material. 3 material indexes which are available. Okay, I'll probably, I don't know whether if I can just go back. Okay, so there are 3 indices which are available in this particular product. So we have a 1.5 index, which is a CR39. We have 1.6 index, which is MR8. And we have 1.76, which is again MR7 material or MR10 material that we say. So if in case you are you would like to go for a unbreakable of the chances of you don't want to give a spectacles which is broken very easily, I would prefer go with the 1.6. That the 1.6 has got a lesser this breaking tendency. Right? Hope I could answer your questions. Anything else, sir?
Just measure the backwardated distance.
back vertic distance. So see, to measure the back vertic distance, we have some manual this centration devices, but at the same time we strongly recommend that we have some digital centration device which has already been given to that optical. We call it as a I-terminal go. So with that I-terminal go, you will be able to measure that back vertic distance. So it is not only the back vertic distance, all the position of wear parameters. So there are four position of wear parameter. One is back vertic distance, one is pantoscopic angle, one is wrap angle, and another one is your PD fitting height. So all these parameters you will be able to capture with this IT go or this I-terminal go what we have given it to the optical.
Any other questions? Other centers? Any other questions? Okay. Good evening all. On behalf of Pediatric Department, it's my pleasure to propose the vote of thanks on this occasion. First of all, I would like to thank all the organizers and the speakers. The first thanks goes to the Z's team, Mr. Sunil Gopinath, Mr. Ratindra Dar, and Mr. Rahul and Mr. Srijit for organizing such a beautiful CME. I would like to thank Dr. P. Vijayalakshmi Madam, our Chief, for the extensive talk on childhood myopia, and I extend my gratitude for the constant support, the guidance and encouragement given by Madam for starting this myopia clinic. Thank you very much, Madam. And then I thank Dr. Shashikant for the welcome address. I thank Dr. Sahitya and Dr. Mr. Ratindra Dar for the extensive talk on the risk prevention and the management solutions given. And finally, I would like to thank one and all for taking time off and attending the CME and making it a grand success. Thank you all. We can break for a tea now. Break for the high tea now. Yeah. So we have an inauguration of a myopia clinic tomorrow at 3 o'clock. 3:30. 3:30. Yeah. Kindly, all of you make your presence. We are all invited.